I hope you took your creatine this morning, brother.
I just threw 650 feet. What about you?
So what? We got like 60K subs, bro.
Yeah, but they're all bots. I got
drop. So last video we talked about how Nick coaches people to throw further. But as coaches, there are some things that we're going to naturally disagree with. That's the great thing. It's kind of necessary in coaching to have things move along. So one of my goals on the channel is just to bring in a variety of views, not to overwhelm you guys, but just to sharpen each other. So I've got a couple things just based on what I've seen him do while throwing. Since he is highly proficient with the throw, I'm assuming most of the things he does are intentional. So I've got just 2 questions because I think he should have really been in the distance comp finals just based on speed alone.
Thanks, yeah.
So I've got 2 questions. He's gonna kind of prod my coaching a little bit and just see where we might disagree a little bit. We might not disagree. We're just gonna talk straight up and find out what's up with what.
Should be fun.
The big thing that happened at the distance comp for people was nose angle. Like the thing that Mikey says all the time that got him there at his slower, like he was on the lower end of speed for guys, but since he did so much tech disc work, he had really good control over the nose angle. And so these shots, you can see them basically right away out of the hand, where it would hit like this and the angle looked amazing. The speed looked amazing. The height looked amazing.
So the disc almost going this, like this out of the hand, you knew it was gonna be good.
Yeah, and you can just tell when it's gonna stall after that Anheuser, and a lot of guys at the distance comp did this. You could just tell, even like Jasper, like on his ones that he qualified with for the distance comps, probably 4 out of 5 of those were nose up. There's like a lot of contention online in the depths of where people talk about coaching stuff in disc golf course review, where people are like, this is the stupidest thing ever, just flipping this over. It's unnatural. Your body should naturally get there. And there are people like me who's like, of course, you're going to have to roll the stamp up. So I wonder what your cues are, what your thoughts are on nose angle specifically, because that's huge for distance. You have to optimize that.
It's very important. Well, there's one big thing where you definitely don't want to throw super nose up if you're throwing fast or for distance, because is it okay if I steal the disc for you for a second? If I release the disc nose up and it's traveling like this, I've just multiplied its frontal area and drag like several times over.
That's the worst.
Yeah.
Multiplying frontal area. You can't do that, guys.
So I basically just turned my 13-speed disc into like a putter, effectively, which is not. That's no bueno. So that's the first thing. You definitely don't want to throw super nose up because of aerodynamics. And then kind of what you're talking about with the way they were flying with those really good angle controlled shots at the USDGC that we were seeing, is it honestly is like a Pandora's box of like physics and flight dynamics, but it's throwing at least nose neutral or a little bit nose down, because there's that range, right? Like usually it's kind of thought like somewhere from, you know, maybe -1 to negative, what would you say, like
depends
5, 6,
on
7?
launch. Like you got to get it.
Yeah.
If you in these distance comps, you got to get it on these lines that they're throwing so high.
Yeah.
You want to get, you know, very nose down, like 6, 7, 8 if you can do it, so that when it hits apex, it has this like double flight at the end. Like its flight starts here instead of here. And so these guys are throwing almost like halfway up to the apex, and then nose down allows it not to stall but to go here, and then it picks up more speed on its way down, and then catches almost like the second turn where it just looks like the disc is moving like straight sideways. You're like, whoa, that's the
it
good
has that
stuff
freaky
right
like UFO look at the end of the flight. The thing that I've personally seen it, because like my PR throw in the field was 740 feet. My nose angle wasn't super good on that day. I did have a good left to right tailwind. But what I was doing is I was turning the discs over so much, and this is where you can technically get away with worse nose angle if you have enough speed and the wind is decent. If you throw it and it turns over a ton, so I'm just gonna throw, basically I'm throwing that way. So I throw a high distance line, I have wind coming in this way, it turns over a lot, the wind pushes it, Now the disc is actually flying nose down just because I turned it over enough, and it's flying to the right, which is where the nose is now tilted downward. So that's where I was getting away with, I think, nose up releases. I don't think it's optimal necessarily because we see the best guys with the most consistency throwing pretty nose down. So I think the higher the launch, the lower you probably want the nose in general.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah, ideally. So this is kind of there's two things here in terms of there's theoretical, which if your thoughts is that you can just turn a disc on anhyzer and that is effectively nose down, just because it's on anhyzer and flying this way. So there's kind of arguments of, oh, okay, well, as long as the disc turns, it's going to be nose down. And I would say no. Like, this is just the launch angle is down, and now you're, kind of nose neutral to your new launch, right? And what we see with guys like, for example, Ezra Aderhold, he's going to force something over, and we know that he doesn't really throw nose down that much from all his tech disc data, right? So he's going to force here, and he gets away with it. But the optimal line is here, coming out of your hand nose down, and then when that turns over, it's still going to be here to where, from your perspective, you would see this part of the disc, not this, right? So this would be nose neutral on anhyzer. This would be nose down on anhyzer, and this what gives you that push forward and gives you that secondary flight. So some people, you're not disagreeing with me on that nose down is more optimal on its new trajectory.
Correct.
Post apex.
Yes.
So post top of the flight. Some people would disagree on that, and they would say this is good enough because now this is nose down. It's not. How you mechanically get more nose down? That's my technical question for you. But it's good to establish that
Nose
we're
down
not
on
differing on like what optimal is.
Yeah, so like technically, bad nose angle on release, you could brute force overcome it if you can throw fast enough, like what I was doing early last year. It's just not ideal because it's not as consistent. So in terms of how do I get a nose down release is the question.
Yeah, what are your,
do I do
like,
with my
this
body?
is the most important thing to get it nose down?
Ooh, that's a tough one to answer with like one specific thing. But in essence, I mean, I guess if we just define really quick what nose angle is basically how the disc is pointed, how the nose is pointed relative to its actual path of travel. So if I'm throwing flat on zero launch, sorry to push you off the frame.
Okay.
If I'm throwing flat and the nose is down like this, but the disc is traveling here, that's nose down. And then if I increase my launch, that actually decreases the nose angle because the nose is even more below the path of travel.
Right.
So basically
That's just,
the difference
it's just
between,
relative. If you go up, it needs to be like this.
Yeah, so then going into the mechanics, it's gonna be just where basically the angle of the disc at release and how that is relative to your launch angle. So it's all gonna be relative to launch angle like what you kind of showed them. So if I'm throwing a flat shot, I'll need the disc to be oriented downwards somehow.
So for me, I didn't know what his thoughts were about this. My thing was, he had the speed, he had the angle out of the hand to make it into distance comp. They were just two nose up. And like, the speed's way above, so like, twist that sucker. Rotate that nose down. Like,
it's not an excuse to my performance, which was not as well. I did not perform the way I wanted to in terms of distance. So again, not an excuse, but I was still rehabbing a middle finger injury that came about from a form change. And so my form was pretty inconsistent because I was making swing changes. And the week before, I had to make a fix to my 360 to attain more access to hyzer angle. And I was actually throwing with really good nose angle about a week before. I was throwing these nice steep hyzer flips, big distance lines with bosses, 650 plus, no wind, flat ground. And then competition day, you kind of fall to your lowest level of preparation. So I did my best and I prepared my best, but I could tell during warm-ups, I was getting a shallow pocket with that, that thumb death grip that gets you that pronated like push at the end. I could feel it in the warm-ups, but I just kind of did my best to manage it. And I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna have to throw these things with less hyzer and just hope to yank them over. And my best throw was still not that far, like 624 or something, and it's downhill out there.
second question, hips, power generators, or no?
So it's
Them is just fighting.
it's kind of like a yes and no kind of thing because it depends on what are we defining as a power source? Is it something where energy comes from in the throw, or is it something where we're actively using it to add power during the actual, like, I guess, pull through or throw?
Yeah,
Because that
so
might be
the
useful
question
for
would
us to
be,
define.
are you trying to transfer ground force through your hip to create some kind of lag sequence and accelerate your torso? Are you
Yeah.
trying to go push off the ground to create acceleration? Or are you trying to push on the ground to decelerate the hips?
Yeah, it's a great question. I used to think of it more as purely adding rotational power during the entirety of the throw. And I think now I look at the hips and are we including the legs, like, or just the like
That's all
pelvis?
for me, because what I see in your throw that makes me think about this is you've got a lot of forward drift. And when people think, from what I've seen, when people think about generating power from the lower body, generally that comes along with, if you're thinking generate power, you're not thinking stop. So it's not as easy to stop forward drift, not as easy to stop over rotation of the hips.
Right.
And so for me, you've got a lot of forward drift visually. I haven't like measured it, but it just looks like you tend to get like pretty over your front foot. Like in the last video where you had me here for that drill. Can you see my feet?
Yep.
Where you had me here for that drill, that was uncomfortably close for me because I'm trying to get people to have their center of mass stay as far away from their right foot as possible.
Depends on what throw you're looking at, because if I'm throwing a power down like golf shot, I will kind of drift through the brace just like Gannon does. It gives you more time to keep the disc on the line.
I'm talking about max distance. What is the goal?
Max distance, trying to brace and use the brace leg to basically push back and stop things as hard as possible, which I have been working on.
Including
because I used to be over rotational.
Yeah, so here's like a key question, because that function can be used two ways, like even just there. We use this to stop things and keep things back. Well, are we talking about the right hip? This is the weight shift from behind idea, right? Are we trying to kick this right hip away so that our core gets opened up? Or are we trying to have this foot hit and keep this hip here and not open up? Are we trying to lock these hips down, or are we trying to have that ground force open hips?
Okay.
That's my core question.
Yeah. Ideal, big, huge shoulder turn, long arm, reach back, super, super solid, stiff brace, and just a fast arm.
So you're saying it's just there to give you something to throw against?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Okay.
Usually I say, okay, the brace is pushing you back, or it's like an anchor point to push against kind of thing for the throwing arm to fly through.
Okay,
really
if it's moving, your hand doesn't have anything to throw against, just throwing against air.
Yeah, it's literally just, if you just blow past the brace, like you basically are not going to be able to get a faster arm at that point. You're pretty much going to be at the limit.
Yeah, your arm can only go as fast as your brace is strong.
Yeah.
You would agree with that statement?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
and I don't know if we want to mention too, if you're running up faster than what you can brace against, sometimes that is super counterproductive. There's someone like trying to increase power by running up faster, but then the brace cannot basically stop it.
Yeah.
Usually speed goes down even though effort goes up. I don't know if you've seen that, where like they literally will lose speed even though it's way harder on the body.
For sure. This is where my favorite phrase regarding the brace of "you can't fire a cannon from a canoe" comes from. Is if you're trying to throw really fast and your brace is really squishy, not productive. If you're trying to throw short and you just got a little hand pistol on a canoe, you're going to be just fine. So
Fire the cannon from sturdy ground, not the
sturdy ground.
canoe.
Nick, tear his form apart. You've watched him throw. I'm
My
sure,
form.
Oh no, I don't want to do that.
Oh, you
Give
go
him
ahead,
one
trash
major-
me.
One major critique of his form.
Of my form,
do you
not
have-
my it'd be
Yeah,
better if he was
well,
going against my
yeah,
teaching.
Yeah, of his teaching. What's your biggest
his teaching?
critique of his teaching?
Don't
as
make
far
me
as a
do that.
philosophy or a point he emphasizes that he shouldn't?
Of his, oh my gosh. I mean, I would say the biggest thing is, and I don't even want to put words in your mouth because I'm not there seeing like the day-to-day analysis that you do. But I should probably ask first, do you teach complete anti-rotation to everyone, or is it more just for the people that are too rotational? Because that would be like the biggest thing I could think of, but I bet it's not even an issue.
Yeah, this goes back to the very coaching answer of it depends.
Okay. That's what I figured.
You've got 2 power generators in the throw. In my opinion, you've got the rotational aspect that you can harness, mostly trunk, shoulders, we talk about, and then you've got the arm. Ideally, you would have a lot of both. You would get as much arm drive as you can get, as much arm generation as you could get.
Yeah.
And then if your relationship was good, so if you're here on your arm drive, this is way too far. So they need to add rotation. They get to add rotation in.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to see that their hand is passing their body, and then they need to continue adding more rotation if they can. So at some point, your arm speed's going to be capped and your rotation's going to be capped. As long as we kind of like move those knobs depending on where they're at positionally. So deep pocket is just how much did your arm pass your body. So when we look, okay, this is cool. This is a nice amount of arm generation, but some people are going to have slow arms, fast torsos. And there's just like ranges that you don't want to get into, like here, right? Or here. So this is too much rotation, not enough arm. This is too much arm, not enough rotation. So we just kind of look and it's like, okay, maybe we want them about here.
Yeah.
But at some point there's a timing. You want to find out what that person is good at doing. Like Mikey's really good at generating rotational power, and he has to work on adding the arm generator.
He used to have the over rotation, right? And he had to slow it down and speed up the arm a little bit for him. Yeah.
And so for someone like that, if you get rid of the rotation, he's going to lose most of his power because that's how he's currently generating. So it's just relational for me. And generally, when we're talking to YouTube audience, I have to pitch this almost as if I'm talking to one person. So I've got to take all 60,000 people and say, what do they generally think like? And most people are going to be here, not here. So I'm going to preach to these people anti-rotation, like stop doing it. But when I get guys here, you think I'm spin and throw. So just the way I communicate with them.
Yeah.
My audience member that I speak to is a more overly rotational. And maybe in your mind, YouTube audience isn't
it's
that
tough as a
overly
coach because you just don't know, like there's such a spectrum of people that are watching the video. One thing I started doing recently, I've watched some of your guys' videos. I can't remember if you caveat the stuff. We're like introing the video with, hey, if you're doing this, then you should watch this video and do this. But if you're not, then you should just like click off this. Because I've had quite a few people come to me and just mention the sea of YouTube drill videos has overwhelmed them. And it's kind of, in a lot of ways, they've regressed or just started to become less fun for them because it's just so much like to deal with, and then they think everything is wrong with their throw kind of thing.
Right.
But it's tough, honestly. So
yeah, YouTube's kind of a double-edged sword because if you're not looking at getting lessons and you're not having someone apply to your unique throw, where one guy's got 60% arm and 40% spin rotation, another guy's got 80. And he's 20% arm. It's like you're both watching the same video, but you need wildly different applications of concepts. So that's why you need to sign up for this guy's coaching.
Or this guy's.
Of course, we're still friends. We don't hate each other's guts or anything. We just good dear brother. We just it's good to talk about these things, and it's really good to highlight differences in coaching because not every coach is right for every student, and so a big goal on the channel is to highlight these things and have some civil discussion around disagreements or the way that we view things, because you're all different. We're all different coaching-wise, and that's what has to happen in the coaching room. So,
yeah, it's really productive. Good conversations to have.
We're gonna go have a nice lunch or something, or we'll get some protein shakes together.
Gassed up.
Whatever it is this guy eats, kale.
Maybe we'll get gassed up and then throw some nukes. Who knows?
And probably try to throw some bombs.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. This is Nick. Peace out.
Peace.